Okay, this week's practice lab is on CSS template, creating a CSS template and manipulating it for your own use. Website here at number 1 tells where to go. You'll download and manipulate the source after you look at how CSS template's created. And whether or not you have CSS experience or not, it's a good resource site to look at. You'll manipulate the header image to make it your own, add your own left navigation and right navigation. There is a website called flamingtext.com that we'll look at to show you how you can do the logo and name. So let's look at the example here. This is a header, left nav, right nav, body, and footer here at the bottom. I'm going to resize the page to show you as I resize the page, the content also stays accordingly as the user resizes the browser. So depending on the browser that they're on, from small to large, you'll resize it. And that's one of the benefits of CSS. Also, we're going to be doing a pass-by reference in the page to show you how easy it is to create that. As you can see up here in the URL, right now I'm at a pass-by reference for home, now about, links, and contact. CSS reference page is right here, and all you'll do initially is go to the page. I have you click on it in the this link here. It takes you to this page here. It's just a template, a 3-column template. I do add to this template a footer for you, but you can basically use this template and create a website immediately with this template. It gives a nice look and feel for it. You can change the colors. The basic settings in this template for CSS is font size, font style, color, border, banner height, color, header image and border, left column width, color and border, center, color and border, width floats, right column width, color and border, and basic settings like font size, style, color, and border. So what you would go through is, you don't really need to make any changes here initially to run this, but this just shows that, the height of the banner. Here it says it's 50 pixels, 0 border, background lavender, the URL to the banner image, 600 pixels wide. Left column will be 100 pixels. Left color column will be lavender. Left border 0. Right column is going to be 120 pixels. Background plum. And border 0. The main color of the site is white smoke in the background. 1-inch border. Dark blue. Font size 12. Purple and Verdana for the font size. So I haven't changed anything. I'm just going to click Generate Page. And here's the CSS output, what it's going to look like. Here is below is the contents of the style.css, starting with this line, body, all the way down. And then here's the contents I used for the index.html. So here's the text for the body, links for the left nav. So you got in this page is it generates both the CSS and it generates the HTML both. So I want to start looking at the breakdown of this site, the lab site, and what you're going to do is basically replace the header with your own, links here, can stay the same, or you can add them, change them. Like for the links, probably good to put your own links here, own links here. And there is a website I put in the steps called flamingtext.com. You can go to that page, type in your name or business or whatever it is you're wanting to play around with. Click Get Started. It'll give you a whole bunch of variations for banner or logos. And you click Next and keep looking at them. When you decide the one you want, you can download it and right-click and download it, and it'll allow you to save it. So there's the one here. And if I right-click, I could download it right to my computer, or continually editing different variations. Now, because ours is the one we're looking at is kind of a white background, it's probably good to have one that you choose. It's a white background and different color text. So that's how I created mine. Here is with that, flamingtext.com. Kind of a cool site. Same with the CSS template creation. There's other types of generators you can look at to help you out in CSS, whether you're very well knowledgeable or not. It does help you create a template on the fly pretty quickly. So let's get right into the code. Here in my Notepad++ is all of the pages for the lab. I did put it in week 5. Go into my labs folder in htdocs. There's my XAMPP, htdocs, Web290, labs, week 5. Here's all the files you'll get when you download the source for this week. And so we've got an about, a CSS, header image, contact footer, header, home, index, links, and menu. It looks like a lot, but you'll see in just a second there's not a lot of code in most of this. The main is in the index. So let's look at the index page first. Well, before we do that, let's look at the CSS page. Let's look at that, because I did modify it a little bit from what the site generates. And this is in the downloadable CSS. From number 1 line all the way down to line 80 is generated basically from this generated basic gen page here. So this, just changing the colors to fit what I wanted. For the background, left, top, and right nav. You'll notice, so it's missing a footer CSS section. So I added a footer section here for you to use. Its position is absolute, 10 pixels from the left. It snaps right to the bottom of the web browser. 98.2% wide to give more of a right margin. 60 pixels high. It's centered, everything in there is centered in the content. Top margin's 5 pixels from the top. Padding is 1 point around, 1 pixel around. Background ivory, 1 point border with a solid blue, dark blue. And so this is how the border looks like here. So you'll notice the padding here, or the 98.2% here, the 10% here, and the copyright 2010 is down around 10 pixels from the top here. So you can use that as well, or you can manipulate this to see what it does as you manipulate it in CSS to play around with it. So let's go ahead and start with the index.php at the very top, basic HTML, header and title, beginning PHP tag. It looks to see if there's anything in the URL, passed by reference. If it's empty, then it echoes home, else it gets that page. And so when this page first loads, I'll go back to the beginning of the index page. Notice it echoes home, and it goes right to the home page. Okay. If it is not empty, then it's going to echo the page variable passed by reference. So if I hover over about, click on that, notice a page is about on this one. Keep that in mind. Going on down is an end PHP tag. It's putting this, by the way, all in the title tag of the web page. So if I go back here, you'll notice the title tag is about page here. If I click on links, it's links page, contacts, contact page. I'm going to go up back to about. Put a link to the CSS file for the style sheet. And you can name that CSS file your first initial last name if you want to. It's up to you. These next few lines are for searchability for Google and keywords, but you can morph and change. These are just some static keywords within the actual base index.html from the CSS generator. Beginning body tag. Inside the beginning body tag, there's a PHP where we start bringing in the power of PHP this week and looking at how PHP can really modularize our web page. So from lines 18 down to lines 43, we're bringing in all the content for our website. So it's going to echo out first the div tag of the CSS called banner. It's going to include the header.php page and end the div tag. So let's look at the banner CSS. And there it is right there. Here's the banner CSS. Background lavender, 50 pixels high. Border, solid dark blue with the voice family. All of this, though, has been zeroed out, so you're not going to see any border. But you should see the 50 pixels high and the lavender background, that's what this is right here. It brings in the header.php page then within that div tag. One of the things I also want to mention within the div tag of banner, notice it is, if I scroll up to the top here, come on down. It says it's 50 pixels high. It does not attribute any width to it. It's going to be by default, though, 100% of the page, 100% width of the page. And so let's go back to the Notepad++ and back to the index page. So the header.php page, let's look at that. Here's what the contents of that is. It's doing a p-align center with the image cconcle.png, 600 pixels wide, 50 high, which corresponds to CSS. I put an alt and a title tag both. Alt would be for older browsers, title for newer browsers, so whenever you hover over the name, it shows up in an alt pop-up. Next is including the menu.php. Let's look at that one. Menu.php is using the div tag left content, and it's doing a left align for home, about us, links, and contact us. You'll notice in all the links, it's a pass by reference for home, about, links, and contact. Let's look at the left content CSS. Left content position is absolute, 10 pixels from the left, 77 pixels from the top, 100 pixels wide, lavender background with no border. So it's including that menu on the left with that CSS here. And you'll notice it's a little bit down from, it's like 70 something down from the top. This is 50, so it gives a little padding there between the banner and the navigation start. Going on. Next, we're going to test to see if the get is empty again. We already did that for the title, but we're going to do it again to redirect the proper page to come into our PHP site. So if it's empty, it's going to put home in there. And let's look at the home.php. There it is. All it has is an H1 with home in there. That's it. H1, by the way, does have, is referenced in the CSS, which I'm not going to go there, but it does have some CSS in there for you. So if it's empty, it's going to reference home page into the page variable. If it's not, it's going to get that page and plug it into the page variable. The example we're using right now is the About Us. It's referencing About. Then we're going to get the page the user wants to see and put it in the variable. Now the page, to find the page the user wanted to see and include it. So you're going to echo out a div statement for center content in the middle of the page. H1 align is going to be centered as well. And then we're going to end the div tag here on this line. But in between the div tag, you'll notice the page is going to be coming in. So the name of the page in this example is about.php is what this is going to end up being. So let's look at the about.php page. There it is. Just an H1 with About Us and a BR tag for a break statement. That's if they clicked on the About. If they clicked on other links, it would bring in those pages. So links, with pass by reference, is going to bring in the links in the middle of the page here. Contacts in the middle of the page here. On the CSS, by the way, for center content, let's look at that. So center content, 77 pixels from the top, just like on the left, above here. White smoke background. Margin, 20 pixels from the top of that box. 110 from the left. 130 from the right on the margin. And it's going to be a 1-point solid background for the center. And then voice family. So 20 from the top, 110 and 130. Go back to the page here. So 20 from the top, left, and right. 110 left, 130 right, and then the 1 pixel border going around it, which is right there. And that stays there regardless what page it is that you bring in, what content you bring in for that page. Going back to the index page. Next echo statement is a write content. It's echoing the div for write content, bringing in the page link called links.php, ending the div tag. So let's look at the write content CSS. Write content's absolute, 110 from the right, 77 from the top of the browser. Width is 120 pixels. Lavender background, 0 border. It's going to be bringing in the links page. Let's look at that. I just have multiple links with an H2 links header. And it's going to be plugged into the right side of the web page over here. Lastly is a footer. The footer is, again, echoing out the div tag for footer, open and close div, and then including in that div the page footer.php. Let's look at that. There's a footer.php, which is just echoing out to the page the copyright for the copyright symbol, and then you would put in here the year. So I'm going to change this just to play here, 2016, and save it. Go back here, hit home, and there it's changed it here for me. Notice it centers it, gives a little padding at the top, and that's all done in CSS. So I go back to the CSS for that. You'll notice here on the bottom of the footer, absolute, 10 pixels from the top. And by the way, that's where you get this here, 10 pixels from the top. Bottom 0, it's flush to the bottom of the page. Anytime the page moves, you'll notice the banner moves with it and snaps to the bottom of that page. 98.2 is just so it has the some padding, much like above here as it is here. 60 pixels high, align center, margin from the top is 5%, padding 1%, ivory background, 1 pixel border with dark blue. So that concludes the multi-page site, but using the power of pass by reference and CSS to make it look nice, and using the include statement where needed. And this is what it ends up looking like. Alright, so you can change this to your liking. Follow the instructions on the lab. Remember, you don't need to turn this in, but you're basically going to manipulate the header, image, left nav, right nav. This is a page you can go to create your logo name. And that concludes week 5 practice.